Welcome to Good Life. I'm Dean Wilson. I'm so glad you're with us today, wherever you are. If you're joining us here locally on TV, at TV Santa Barbara, we welcome you. And so many of you are watching us from around the world at goodlifetelevision.org, at the YouTube channel and social media platforms. And now, over the last few months, we see a lot of you joining us at the podcast. So there's this thing called a podcast. You've probably heard of it. All the podcast platforms, you can check us out at Good Life Conversations. So every few days, there's new interviews dropped on there. And then on the YouTube channel, you can watch the long form interviews, and you can also watch what we call power clips. We kind of break those up. So we'd love to have you check them out. Just some great stuff, some great people, people kind of every walk of life. We've had entrepreneurs and business folks. We've had public servants, teachers, athletes, coaches, young people, older people, great life stories. It's just been a great mix of goodness. And, and we don't kind of neglect suffering or problems or difficulty. Everybody has that in life. But what we dwell on is what's important. And what we're dwelling on here is the goodness and the overcoming. And so we're so glad you're along for the ride. I really been looking forward to this one for a while. I've got Leo Bunnin with me today. Leo, welcome.
Thank you so much.
So I'm watching the Laker game last night, as I'm prone to do. Great win, by the way. I don't know if
Two in a row.
Great overtime win for the Lakers last night, and because the game was an overtime and it went so long, I saw your commercial several times. What a family, what a business they've built. Leo's the CEO and president of the Bunnin Auto Group. It's an award-winning auto dealership that's all over the Central Coast here where we are in California. They've built a great business. There's a lot that Leo's and his family has accomplished over the years. We're going to get to that, and a lot of philanthropic stuff. But just watching that commercial, it's so great. And now my family, when they see it, they're like, "Oh, there's Leo. So, Brian, your son, who's now involved as executive vice president, you got your grandkids, and then you come out, and it's talking about one of the things it says in the commercial. It says, over 70 years, which I want to talk about that history of commitment to treating our customers and the community like family. That's really your heart and soul, isn't it?
Very much so. That is definitely our foundation. I didn't initiate that. 70 years goes back to my grandfather. And I'm thrilled, as you mentioned, Brian is now in the family business, and that's a fourth generation. And the way my grandkids kind of behave, we could have a fifth generation going on. So they look like naturals, but this is what we do.
So let's talk about the generational piece, because I had a great grandfather too, and a great father. I had somebody come into my office the other day, and they were asking me about this because they were saying, sometimes with a patriarch, a founder, a pioneer kind of person, the first generation, great. Second generation, maybe 50%, it kind of continues on, or the DNA changes, or the this or that. And then the third generation, the numbers get, this is going strong. Talk about how you've built on that.
So I agree with that philosophy. I've seen it generation after generation. It seems to slide a little bit. My grandfather, who unfortunately I never met, he passed away before I was born. Car guy, entrepreneurial guy, spirit, big life. From what I hear, they used to line up waiting to see him. My dad and my uncle, inseparable, best friends, brothers, business partners. And I learned just as much from my uncle as I did from my father. My dad and I were mega close, but passed it down. And when it got to me, third generation, a lot of times gets a little flaky and doesn't have that work ethic. And I'm happy to say that I think that they taught me that wasn't going to happen in my generation. And I worked very hard from the beginning and trying to teach it to my son and my grandchildren now. But that's really, it has been passed down.
That work ethic.
Yes, absolutely.
I think what can happen, I think sometimes in that kind of scenario, it can become like where it kind of feels like some kind of a birthright.
I agree.
Instead of something, I better work at this.
Right. And that does happen. You use the word work ethic, and I use it every day in the dealership. I remember being in my low 20s and watching my dad go from the second story of the dealership downstairs, and he's carrying his trash. And I said, Dad, what are you doing? Let me help you with that. No. he didn't want the underlings to do it. It needed to be done. He did it, and that's really leading by example. You know, whatever it takes, whether
Right.
it's some big brain trust or whether it's taking out the garbage, you do what you have to do.
Right.
And I learned a lot that day.
Yeah, you didn't forget that.
No, no, no.
Yeah. So go back real quick to just kind of your upbringing, kind of
Okay.
where you were raised, kind of what
Okay.
your environment was like.
Mom from New York, dad from Chicago. They met on a train in Cheyenne, Wyoming. Kind of a nice love story.
Really?
And after married, they lived in Chicago for 5 years, and then they moved west. And I was born in L.A. I'm a born and raised California guy. Uh, School, sports, and friends. That was the important thing to me. And then I got my driver's license at 16 years old, and it's during the summer. And I used to take a car out that my dad would give me, and I would sell it wholesale to another dealer. And I did that through the summer. And in 1970, I sold about 30 cars. So I'm a 16-year-old kid with $750 in my pocket. I became very, very popular, and that was really the beginning of everything. And about 30 years ago, someone brought me to Ventura County to play golf. And about 25 years ago, somebody brought me to Santa Barbara to look around and see their home. And my whole life, the last 30 years, has been Central Coast.
Yeah, moving north.
Yes.
Yeah. Sports was big.
Big. Playing, watching, coaching. I always say that I'm so busy. If there was no such thing as sports, I'd have a lot of free time. Yeah, it's and I know you're the same way, as
Yep.
you mentioned the Lakers of last night. But learned a lot in sports, and I think I taught a lot in sports too. And I think those are great years, very good foundational years. You just absorb so much other than shooting a basket or hitting a baseball or whatever. And I think those are big years for kids. I really do.
Right. And so a 16-year-old kid, you're selling cars and you get some money in your pocket. Did you, I mean, obviously I think probably a lot of is natural, but do you like smell a deal? Like you're a deal guy.
Yeah, I am.
How does that work?
I have a saying that everybody's a deal. So somebody comes into the dealership and their trade might not be worth what they think, or their credit's not so wonderful, but somewhere everybody's a deal. I do. And, people work for money. That's a motivator. To me, the feeling of accomplishment is as good or better. It's what I say, making someone say yes. And that really kind of floats my boat when a deal is, let's say a deal is initiated and then a deal is completed. So you're pretty smart. You read that right, Dean. I do smell a deal, but I do like the whole process and getting to the finish line.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
I mean that's a gift. I think some people have the gift. This is going to sound weird, kind of. I mean, you're a hard worker. You built this great business, but I think some people have the gift of that sense. Like I don't have it. I'll just tell you.
I'm not sure you're right, but okay.
Well,
on your end,
okay.
yeah.
I don't think I have it like you have it.
Yeah.
But that's a wonderful thing.
It is, and I don't think you can teach it. Again,
Yes.
you see in the dealership, it's so interesting that you have all these salesmen. They have the same managers, the same inventory, the same pay plan, the same desk setup, and the variance can be 2.5 to 1 from high to low. And let's say that person that's at the top of the list, he's got it, or it's natural, or he gets the rush of making a deal. So you're right.
Yeah.
There is a break in the action where some have got it and maybe some have got it and some don't have it. Yeah.
So talk about your employees. I think there's 200 plus that work for you.
Yeah.
What is your vision for how the organization treats those folks? I know there's ups and downs to leadership in that way, but what's your vision for those people?
So at other times I've had as many as 700-800 employees, and I can't, at that number, I can't do what I do at approximately a couple hundred. To me and the senior management staff, it's not employee number 1, 2, 6, 4. We dig in a little bit. We know they're married, they're not married. They've got 2 kids. One plays Little League, one plays the guitar. You can't be perfect with that, but we try to get the the interaction and to know about them, and they appreciate it. Another thing is the automobile business in certain parts of it is a transient business as far as
Right.
employees. And one of our successes has been we don't have that. Does everybody make it for 15, 20 years? No, that's not the case. But one thing is, I think people love that embrace, which is what we do. And two, I think I pay a little more than most people so that we don't have that turnover. Or when the dealership next door calls and says, "Hey, John, you want to come and work for us? We've got an opening." They say, "No, I kind of like it in the Bunnin organization." So we're very personal with not everybody, but mostly everybody. And our pay plans are good, and we've got tremendous employee loyalty. People talk about CSI, Customer Satisfaction Index, all the manufacturers, they want that. I go with ESI, Employee Satisfaction Index. You make sure that that employee is happy working for you, and it's up to us to build that they feel that way. So that's
Yes.
that's how we do that.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
was with a guy the other day. We were talking about management, and he was saying, love your people and they'll love the customer.
It's true.
Where I think it's in one sense, your customer is your people.
Right. There's no
First.
question. You're absolutely right.
Yeah.
Absolutely right. In our Friday morning meetings, when the guys are there, and I might say, "Hey, Bill, is that a new shirt and tie?" He says, "Yeah, it is." I said, "You feel pretty good about it?" I said, "You looked in the mirror today and you knew that you looked good?" I said, "You're going to sell 2 cars today," because they start the day off. We bring them into this Friday rah-rah meeting. So between all that, they've got the inertia. And when they go say hello to Mr. and Mrs. Smith or Mr. and Mrs. Ramirez, they're in the right state of mind. They make a car deal, and the customer feels that feel good.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's
So good.
Yeah, it is
It's
good.
so good.
It's really good.
That's a great feeling.
Yeah.
Before I get to some of your kind of charitable heart work, what's it like being a grandfather?
So when my friends have their first grandchild, I always say, "You're going to love it in this club." People say, "Oh, it's so great to be a grandparent because you can hand the kid back to the parents." Maybe there's something true there. But for me, I love it because I see the next generation and I know the longevity. And in our case, we're so boy heavy that I know that the Bunnin name is going
name's
to get
going
picked. Yes,
on.
it is. And I like that very much. It's a great club, and it's a great feeling, and it's different for me anyway from being a father to being a grandfather. And I
Yeah.
love it. When one of my grandsons, his name is Max, he always says the same thing when we go out to dinner: "I want to sit next to Papa." That's better than anything,
Yeah,
So
right.
that's,
And then he'll order whatever he wants. at
oh,
that point.
and beyond, and beyond. Yes, he will for sure.
A friend of mine says, fatherhood's great, but grandfatherhood is when you come to a point in your life where you feel like you're going on forever.
Yes.
Like it's, which I think I'm
I
not there
agree.
yet. But,
Yeah,
but
you'll get there.
I'll get there. And just mention Melinda. I know Melinda's probably has 51% of the vote in your household, if I had to guess.
Well, you see, I don't know if you call it love or training or believing in me. She really kind of follows my lead. Now, I'm not the kind of guy that says, "We're moving here, we're going there, we're doing this." But she really kind of believes in me, and she lets me lead the way. Because of her sweetness and greatness that way, I always include her to maybe not 51, but at least 50%.
Yeah, right.
And she's overly good to me. She really is, and I appreciate it so. And we have that friends feel in addition to the husband and wife feel, and it's a good thing. I like it.
I love what you say. She believes in me.
Yeah, she really
Yeah.
does, because we've had so many years together that have I made some mistakes along the way? Absolutely. But she knows most likely I'm going to direct us in the right direction or make the right decision. And that goes a long way.
That's
goes a long
beautiful.
way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you've taken this platform you've been given, and then you've worked hard for, and you've built over these many years, and you really, in your words, it's about doing the right thing. I mean, you've done a lot of work with St. John's Regional Medical Foundation. they gave you a lifetime achievement award, in fact, and you've Boys and Girls Clubs, United Way, the Boy Scouts, here at the Turner Foundation with us in Santa Barbara, you've helped us a lot. Generosity. I mean, so there's a lot of people that get successful and just, pack it in, and then, it's
That
just,
aggravates me.
yeah.
It really does.
Talk about that.
Yeah. I'm going to say my true volume philanthropic ways probably is only the last 15 or 20 years. And I describe it as that people that don't do anything, give $5, give $10, give your time if you don't have a lot of money. And once you get into it and you feel the appreciation who you're supporting, it's what I call catch the fever. And if you got a heart and you got a head and it feels good, all of a sudden those 5s and 10s might become 20s and 50s. Or you used to give a half hour to help with something, it might be 2 hours. I get very frustrated, Dean, when people, and you see this a lot in middle class and upper class people that have had a pretty good run and some successes, and they do zero giving back. And I don't get it. And, I'm sad to say I have some friends that way. They're good people, but they just don't get it. And for me, I get a lot of joy in doing it, and it is doing the right thing, and it is giving back. And I feel that it's just the thing to do. I'm fortunate I can do it, but also I love doing it too. When a little kid comes up, when we had the event at my house a couple of weeks ago, and these kids that were there, and they came up and they thanked me for opening our home for them, or they had a question or two. That's beautiful. That's better than a sunset or a oil painting or whatever.
Right.
So some people don't have that in them. Leo Bunnin does.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And those kids, I guarantee, have probably never seen a house like that. Not a bad thing.
Yeah.
Generosity, there's something powerful about this spirit of generosity. And I had somebody tell me one time, if you're struggling, if you have no money, go find a piece of clothing from your closet and give it to somebody else. And
Proper thinking.
I was like, what a way to think.
Yeah. Think about all of us that we have too many things. Why not give some of those things
away?
Yeah. And that's beautiful.
I
buy into it.
I think it just, I just think it's a principle of just this world that we live in. I think that there's, not only do you feel good, but I just think there's something about the generous spirit that just attracts more.
I'm going to tell you something else about generosity. As we're talking, it comes to my mind. Do something that makes a difference in somebody's day. The easiest way is that, people think of tipping at 15, 17% in there. If somebody does a great job, 20%. But this person was pleasant and friendly and did a great job. Up the ante there. Or a valet parking guy that is working hard and running 2 blocks to get your car. And when they come back, whatever the appropriate tip is, give them a little more, or just little things that mean really nothing in changing our lives, but it improved that person's day. And it's a spirit of generosity, and it's so little, but it means so much. And I try to do that too.
Yes. The little things are the big things.
Right. They are.
They are. I think that's true about life.
Yes.
We think, that reminds me kind of a joke. This is more of like a marriage joke, but somebody comes to this guy who's been married for 40 years and says, now, what's the secret to your success? He says, well, my wife kind of makes most of the decisions, but I make all the really big decisions. He says, well, what's an example of a big decision? He says, we haven't had one in 40 years.
Very funny. Yeah, very funny.
We got some years of marriage between us.
Right,
you probably
sure,
know a little bit.
Sure, absolutely.
Yeah. What is, if you were going to kind of implant something, and we've talked about some of this, but in your grandkids, let's take Max. What do you, what is it that you want for younger generation, for this new generation coming up? What is something or things you've learned that you want to implant?
His parents have done a great job where he's polite, not overly sugary, stupid polite, but please and thank you is part of his vocabulary and repertoire. the world is changing so that I'm not sure that I'm qualified to answer that, because there's things that go on that I don't understand, good or bad. But as far as for anyone that's in these, I don't know, 8 to 20 range, not to beat it up or to be trite, but work ethic, whether it is your schoolwork or whether it's your house chores or whether it's your part-time job or your job, you know, at the dealerships, I'd rather have somebody that's average in intelligence with a really good attitude. We can teach them how to get better, but you can't teach attitude.
Yeah.
And I'm not the first one to author that saying. There's people that are very talented with a really bad outlook and attitude and personality, and they fail, and it's really a shame. Again, because we are on this subject, and their parents do a great job. I try to teach my grandchildren to be good, to do something, help a lady that's walking across the street that's got a problem or whatever. But I think that the most important thing is, for any generation, be a good person,
Yeah.
do the right thing, help and love others. And not everybody does that. It's really simple, Dean. It's so
Right.
simple and so basic. I always say some people like being nice. Some people like being not nice. And thank goodness there's a smaller group of those. But some people are just kind of salty, nasty folks.
Right.
And I don't get it. I guess they're unhappy. I don't know.
Yeah.
Never see that with me.
No. They need to come spend the afternoon with you out on
Yeah.
the patio.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, we get to choose our attitude. I mean, that's a great point. And if there's one thing, disciplining young people, or like when my boys are coming up, I mean, that was the thing that I was always most conscious of, was the attitude.
Right.
Because it doesn't matter what you're fighting about or talking about or arguing. Like, I would just sometimes say, you know what? I just don't like your attitude.
Yeah.
You get to change that.
Sure.
Or you cannot.
Yeah.
And you'll be in the
choice.
garage for
Right.
a while. But,
Right. But that's it.
But that attitude is so
Yeah.
important.
Again, we're talking, we always get compliments all through the years. Boy, your dogs are terrific. They're so sweet. They're so this, they're so that. And I always either think it or say it. It's the same as with children or with your pets. A little bit of discipline and a whole lot of love,
Yeah.
and the finished product is fantastic. A lot of people get that ratio wrong.
Right.
But that's it. Little bit of discipline, a lot of love, the result's good.
That is really profound.
Yeah, thank you.
Little bit of discipline and a lot of love.
Yeah.
Leo Bunnin. There it is.
2022, yeah.
2022. What's as you look out kind of on your next chapter, and obviously your grandfather, your presidency of the Bunnin Auto Group still, what excites you about getting up in the morning?
Getting up is the first thing, that's a hell of a good start. I am very routine, and I think about this often. I like my routine. From the minute my eyes open till the minute that I get in the car to go to work, I kind of have a routine. At work, I kind of have a routine, and then later in the day, I do. It's really the same. I'll never retire. God willing, I don't have to retire because of any illness or anything. But as far as the way that I see the future, I love the life I have and the run I have. I want to continue to work. I want to continue to be with my family. I want to continue to help others. And I think about it, you don't always get blessed with a lot of time or whatever. I need another 20, 25 years for sure. One, from a selfish standpoint for myself, but to continue to do what I do and help others. We talk about, again, when I see success in my people, I love it. Or they've earned enough money to buy a better home or a better car or a vacation or to do something wonderful for their spouse. I love that. And
Yeah.
they work hard to earn their money, but we provide the environment for it. And I like that a lot too.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like that.
Do you have, I was thinking about friendship. Do you have like a long-term friend that you cherish?
Yes. Only child. And that's one thing in my life that I wish I had siblings. Thank goodness Brian has 2 boys and this and that, but we don't have a ginormous family. When I was about 15 or 16 years old and coaching Little League, and another gentleman that was coaching, we were kids, not gentlemen in those days, And now for a little over 50 years, we've never had a crossword. We talk every day. He's like a brother. He went to Stanford undergrad. He went to law school in Northern California. In those 7 years, we were as close as when we lived close together. I'm also blessed in that at my last big birthday, I had about a half a dozen friends there that I know for 50 years, played Little League with and all this, and, grew up in school. So I've been blessed with a lot of friends, and I continue to make them. I love them. I love growing that base, and I love getting closer, and I love sharing. And I'm really lucky with that, Dean. I got a good friends base. Yeah,
That makes life rich.
it does.
Yeah.
It does. Yeah, people want to run and go and do this and this trip and this whatever. I like being in my city and spending time with my friends, whatever the event is. And it's odd. I know that people strive to do this. I love my daily life.
I think that's a great thing.
Yeah.
That's a great perspective. I feel the same way. Like
Yeah.
sometimes it feels like people are just kind of buying time till their next trip.
Yeah.
I'm like, I don't want to go on a trip.
Yeah.
Like I like it here.
I'll get a lot of booze on this one. And I agree, I like it here too, a lot of booze. Here's my evaluation of traveling. I've done plenty of it in my life, so it always hasn't been this way. But I think people say, Dean, I went to Bulgaria, and can you believe I stayed at the ABC Hotel, and we had dinner here, and the conversation of it is as good as the trip for a lot of people.
Right.
And I know that I'm wrong, and like I say, I've done plenty of traveling, but at this stage of my life, I love it right here. It's great.
Yeah, no, I think that's great.
Yeah.
Wow, there was a lot in that interview.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you very
This
much
has
for
been
having
fun.
me. I
Yeah.
appreciate it.
Leo Bunnin, everybody. Fantastic. We'll see you next time.